The topic we have is spatial computing, which is a term that has come in use to avoid the M word, metaverse, but it's also a word that implies, and I think it's correct that this is happening, that implies that our digital world, our world of media, is now reorganized in many different ways. It's AI-driven, software-driven, but also the fact that we can give spatial information to digital data means that we can have, in virtual production, have a complete game engine produced setting for a series. Or we can experience a different world when you put on VR glasses. Or you can be out there in the world and see where information is. Now, so the word spatial computing, let's roll our first video and then I'll introduce our guest. This is what Apple had to say earlier this year. This is not the first video, actually.
The first mainstream mixed reality headset.
This is not my first video. It's okay, but it's not Apple, for
not
sure.
Yeah, that looks like one.
This is the one, yeah.
Introducing Apple Vision Pro. The era of spatial computing is here. When you put on Apple Vision Pro, you see your world and everything in it. Your favorite apps live right in front of you, but now they're in your space. This is Vision OS, Apple's first ever spatial operating system. It's familiar, yet groundbreaking. You navigate with your eyes. Simply tap to select, flick to scroll, and use your voice to dictate. It's like magic.
Okay. Natuurlijk zegt Apple that. Of course Apple will say it's magic. So far nobody has seen this thing. I mean, it exists, but we haven't touched it. But it does, I mean, apart from the fact they use mid-century Swedish design to promote this. Did you see the chairs? It is an interesting moment in time because both Apple and Meta are refocusing on what this spatial thing means. We have 3 people around the table here. I'll first introduce them and then I'm going to do one-on-one interviews with them. They have all brought some video that we can see and discuss. And it will also be open to your questions. So that's the first block, then we have a little break, then we move to the second block, which are 3 makers. So people actually doing things right now. But first, who do we have here? Gabriele Romagnoli, tell us a little bit, what do you do?
So, my name is Gabriele Romagnoli. I'm a head of marketing at community at ShapesXR, and I like also to define somehow myself as a tech ambassador, like pushing the boundaries, showcasing products and teams that are doing some great work in spatial computing.
And this is just a tip. If you're interested in this topic and you want to know more about the design for spatial computing, this is not what we're going to discuss right now, but you share a lot on the design on LinkedIn. That's
Absolutely.
the place to find information.
You will find me there.
Yeah, exactly. Silvia Rossi, via the CWI, tell us, what do you do there? So the Centrum for Wiskunde and Informatica,
yes.
What do you do there?
I'm a researcher and mainly I'm working to analyze and understand the user behavior in immersive technology. So to try to understand which part of the video or of the content the user will look at in the near future.
And users are quite different. Eh?
Yes.
This is not of itself a mass medium thing because people behave so differently.
There are many factors that influence our behavior, so we need to try to understand in advance where they look at, because in terms of technology, we can, in this way, transmit that part in advance and be sure that the content is visualized in high quality and we have a realistic experience, virtual experience.
We'll come back to that in a second. Yeah. And then Benjamin, we know each other because I work for him. You know, you have a big event, or you've had a big event for many, many years, VRDays Europe, now called Immersive Tech Week. Tell us a little bit about it. What happens there?
Yeah. So what happens there in Immersive Tech Week, previously VRDays Europe, we try to cover everything that's happening in the world of spatial computing, of immersive technologies, of virtual and augmented reality. It has a very creative starting point. We want to see how the developments in storytelling are happening in these technologies, but also what's happening in all these different domains where these technologies have been used for many years. So in education, in training, in healthcare, in arts. So we try to cover all these, say, verticals. We try to follow projects from inception and conception to completion, meaning that we have an artist in residence where new work is being created during the event. We have a funding market where projects in development are being connected to potential funding. We have a trade show where companies show their products, so about 100 companies. We have an art exhibition where you can experience all kinds of artistic works. And we have a playground area which is open for the general audience to experience what these technologies can do free of charge. And we try to cover the topics also, things that are relevant on a policy level, what's necessary to develop these technologies in a responsible manner. And we try to cover topics that are more on the ethical considerations, from data privacy to...
And that's not all.
But it's a big event. And on a sustainable level, because it's also very interesting what these technologies can do to maybe get to a world with fewer products. So that's what we do in Rotterdam at the Doelen.
End of November.
End of November.
Immersive Tech Week. You can go there. No, but it's relevant because we're going to discuss now with Gabriele first about the hardware, software, the platforms that are being used right now, that are being developed right now. But of course, the real question is, after that, what is the creativity? What can you do with it? So, but Gabriele, you follow this. This year we had Apple with Vision Pro. We have Meta last week. I don't know if you guys followed this, but tell us a little bit. What's happening?
Well, maybe first I would like also to ask a question to the audience. I'm curious who have seen that Apple announcement before today. Okay, so great. So I know who I'm talking about. Great. So, I mean, we have seen indeed that Apple is releasing a new headset next year, that Meta has just the other week announced the Quest 3. Now, what does that mean, really? So I think that one of the things that really means is that digital content will start populating our space, right? So this is one of the most important things. And a big bet there was also media consumption in some way or form, right? So they have bet on NBA being streamed, being cross-court. But also another important thing is how media is actually experienced. So not just the shape, but also how it is consumed.
Because with all due respect to Mr. Zuckerberg, who's a visionary guy, his idea of the metaverse and everything in it and what we're all going to do and the billions he has spent on it so far has not resulted in an audience that thinks, cool, this is what I want.
That is true. That is true. And I mean,
so the fact that these companies have this vision doesn't necessarily mean we're all going to be in that space.
No, we will not. No. We will certainly not all. And I think there is something for everybody in different forms, right? So I think the teens and the youngster would end up playing in these virtual worlds completely immersed. There is a way where we just use an app for consuming media, or maybe meeting with others for professional purposes, or maybe going through a training. There may be others where we start using the Ray-Ban glasses to interact with AI, again, using those technologies.
That's maybe a good. What has changed this year is not just a better version of the VR glasses, but moving toward wearable stuff like a Ray-Ban glass, you know.
Exactly, and this is the point. So it's not just we have new hardware, good, it's going to be better. Yes, it is better and whatever, from all front. And by the way, it's not just Apple and Meta, let's be clear here. So there are other players joining, right? So this is one thing. And one reason why I picked this image is because you will see that the girl on the bottom right you can see her eyes, right? So what does
Well, you can see an image of
an image of her eyes,
Yes.
right? It's not passed through, in a sense, the screen. But this means that how these medias are experienced and how you will be able to interact with that. That was one of the things. So you could be sitting there, someone could be close to you physically, and someone could be close to you digitally. They could all potentially interact with you. So that is one of the different things. But going back to your point, when you were saying it's not for everybody. So no, it certainly is not. And I think that this is showing how we are moving forward. And Mark got a big pivot in a way. He didn't mention, I think he mentioned metaverse once. And virtual reality is kind of like a thing of the past, right? There is this bet on bringing this digital content in the real space, because then there is this extra value and extra novelty. And we'll see how it pan out. I mean, in all honesty, I think everybody's trying to figuring it out in some way or form.
Nobody knows. Yeah. But of course, this year something else has changed, and that's the generative AI, large language models, sort of a new operating system for anything we know. I mean, this is going to change so many things. It will also change the virtual worlds we can create, the data, and the data coming in at the same time. I mean, a lot of this is not being used in the media sector, but it's used in architecture. Or, this morning, I don't know if people were there, the talk of NVIDIA, where they showed that corporately speaking, in businesses, this metaverse is there. There are 3D spaces where people cooperate to actually get things done. I mean, that is happening. And at the same time, we have this, I just read about this new satellite company that will record the world in 25 centimeter by 25 centimeter bits. The detail of what is available in all these spatial systems, the real systems, the digital twins. It's growing. This year seems to be...
Yes, and actually, if you actually look at again other section of Meta for Work, like they showcase some of their latest examples, and what they were showing is again the capabilities of what they now call mixed reality, even though if it's completely virtual, for training and simulation, and neglecting in a way what is this mixed reality, because again, I think everybody for work specifically is still figuring it out. Transparency, that is just.
And then we'll move to Silvia. Last question to you. So we have this new hardware. So what does it take for somebody, because that's your specialty as well, to design for a spatial digital world?
So one thing that I would like to say here is, like, if you go back maybe to the previous one, the 4 headsets that you've seen, one was Meta, one was from Apple. Then we got the top right, that is a headset designed from another company that is just about screens, right? It's not about interacting, so it's again another different use case for that. And we also have our European counterpart, the Lynx R1, right? So let's not think that it's all the Americans, and I think we have all a role to play in adopting sharing. So this is going out, so looking forward to try it again after last year I've done. And so the point is, it's not just about the big players, there is also our own ecosystem.
And is there an ecosystem in place now that for all 4 or 6 or 10 or 100,000, because there's also a lot of Chinese VR glasses, the same standards apply for the spatial info that can be shared towards all these devices, or is it still very proprietary?
It's still very, very segmented, right? And standards are in many forms. There is a technological standard, there is like a development, but also like let's say, security standards. So that is, again, it's very fragmented.
Standards on details, but not the platform itself.
But WebXR is moving forward also in that sense, and that is something that should hopefully try to homogenize and connect this. Again, something that was also mentioned by Meta. They are moving there in that direction, but then how that different is going to be from the one offered by Apple version. or and so on.
I have no trust.
to just answer your question. So I think that the best way, if you want to start creating and ideating and designing for this new world, it's probably get one of these. Get one of these, whatever. I have one here. If you want, you can come over and try it. Again, with mixed reality, So that gives you an impression of what that means to have digital content around you. And that's what we are doing indeed. One of the things we're doing at ShapesXR, developing this tool to allow people to start designing, ideating, and creating collaboratively for spatial content. Yeah. So again, I wouldn't want to take any time, but so if you want...
We'll come back to you. Don't worry. Okay, you'll have questions. Silvia, let's move to you. We have a video for Silvia. Can we see the video? It's video number 2.
It feels like we're in the same room.
No, it's the one before.
It feels like the future.
We are incredibly proud to introduce Quest 3, the first...
They're in order of appearance, seriously. So the Silvia Rossi video, if possible. We can talk about it first if need be, but... hopefully they find it. Let's talk about it first. So,
yes.
The research you do, and this is also what the video shows, is not just like, okay, what happens to somebody when they put on VR glasses. It's also what happens when they're in the same space together with other people, right?
Yes. So we are working a lot with the social virtual reality. So we are not a single individual in the same VR space, but there are multiple people that are experiencing together the same experience, the same space. And what I'm actually interested in understanding is how people interact with each other in this virtual world. And recently we did an important study where we had multiple people in the same room, and we tried to understand how the design of the room where they are were influencing and affecting their behavior to interact with each other, but also their own feelings. So basically when there were a lot of people in a small room, we noticed that, of course, they were not feeling very comfortable to be there, like in the real world, when we see a real room and we want to enter in, but the room is small and we see that it's already quite full. We don't feel very comfortable to jump inside.
I once read this beautiful thing, and it turned out that in virtual spaces, what you need in a virtual room is a door. And it's just the feeling that you could leave the room, even if it's a virtual room, makes you feel less suffocated.
Yes.
It's weird, yeah.
So this is a study on proximity, and proximity we can apply also in the real world, but what is interesting is that the same theory is applied in the digital world. So we really noticed that with people that we know each other, we keep a smaller distance, while if we are interact with someone that we don't know, we have we take further distance. Yeah. And so in this experiment, we noticed that on the contrary, when we design a big room, they enjoy to stay there, they enjoy to navigate in the space, and they feel better and more comfortable to stay there and to talk with each other.
It is, by the way. I mean, how many people here have actually never seriously experienced the VR surrounding? Don't be ashamed, it's okay. Okay, everybody has. Now, I've tried out quite a lot and experienced and looked at them. And then, funnily enough, last year I got invited to Amsterdam North, where you have a VR space where with 5 people together you kill zombies. That's the whole thing. And it's seriously, if you try it, then you suddenly understand. Oh, okay, now I get it. This is the attractiveness of it, It's a zombie killing experience. But it's to be together in the same space and have to work together and cooperate and shout at each other and say, look, there's another zombie over there. That actually works really well. Can we see the videos? Yeah? Okay, fantastic. There we go.
So here what we bring is a social VR experience in which basically we teleport people in virtual reality. We have highly realistic representation of yourself, and we put you in a virtual environment, and then you can do activities together with your friends or family members.
Het verhaal gaat over één object uit onze collectie, namelijk de jurk die Journey Kaagman aan had tijdens een van de opnames van Top Op. In die virtuele ruimte sta je dus met iemand anders, dat maakt het vernieuwend. Kom je samen in die studio en kun je daar een muziekclip opnieuw opnemen.
The quality of experience is not just a matter of visual quality, but it's also how much people enjoy the system, right? And how much they feel immersed. So yeah, you can see that they're playing the guitar, for example. And yeah, forgetting that you are in the real world and just feeling super immersed.
The 3 cameras can capture your 3D image and reconstruct your image in the VR space.
So I've been already working on this particular technology for the last 10 years, but I think we are still in the beginning. To me, it's like video in the 90s, and we are really learning how volumetric video works, how to compress it, how to send it, how to interact with it. So to me, it's the beginning.
En je kunt in zo'n 3D-wereld kun je die objecten tot leven wekken. Dat willen we gaan laten zien in ons nieuwe museum.
En ons nieuwe museum is, of course, this museum. This was Johan Omer of Beeld en Geluid.
Yes.
During the research, what is the thing that surprised you guys most?
So we, in this recent experiment, for example, I was completely surprised because we designed the room in a very simple layout, just to not distract the people. And actually, when we did a post questionnaire to our participant, some of them, they were saying, yeah, I was a bit bored with the layout of the room. If we were at the beach, and probably I would have spent more time and look at the seaside instead of interacting with the other participants that I didn't really know, so they were not always interested in interacting. So I was really surprised how we think about virtual reality. It's like an application that we can use to dream about what we would like to do or where we would like to be. So this is something that I got very surprised about that.
And this is the very, you don't have to show the whole video, but the number 2B, that's the one where you saw Lex Fridman and Mark Zuckerberg talking to each other. That's one of those representations. These are last year he was maybe we can see it. Last year he was a cartoon guy with no legs, but now they, like you did, recorded themselves with very fancy cameras. And now the virtual representation of the person is very close to the person. Can we see that?
It feels like we're in the same room.
Yeah.
It feels like the future. This is truly, truly incredible. I just wanted to take it in. I'm still getting used to it. It's like, it's you. It's really you.
All right.
But you're not
This is
here
PR,
with me.
ladies and gentlemen, but still.
You're there wearing a headset, and I'm wearing a headset. It's really, really incredible. So what, can you describe what it takes currently for us to appear so photorealistic to each other?
Yeah, so for background, we both did these scans for this research project that we have at Meta called Codec Avatars. And the idea is that instead of our avatars being cartoony, and instead of actually transmitting a video, what it does is we've sort of scanned ourselves in a lot of different expressions, and we've built a computer model of sort of each of our faces and bodies and the different expressions that we make, and collapse that into a codec that then, when you have the headset on your head, it sees your face, it sees your expression, and it can basically send an encoded version of what you're supposed to look like over the wire. So in addition to being photorealistic,
the step from last year's demo by Meta and this year's demo by Meta, collapse yourself into a codec. That's what any actor now is going to do, and I'll be a beautiful young codec forever online talking to everybody. This is what will happen, right? Benjamin, the video of the research was actually shot at VRDays last year, 2 years ago, the one we saw. You've been following this field, and you also brought some videos to show how fast this is going, but especially that in the media sector, sometimes the things are a little bit invisible, but in other sectors, it's really being used already, right?
Yeah, but maybe before
go ahead,
the video, reflecting on what we just saw, which was incredible, I think. But now think of this then, because yesterday I was speaking to people from KLM, saying, well, soon, now we still make videos with lots of actors. Soon we don't need those actors anymore.
It's already there. It's already
Because with generative AI, you can just go into this training scene. Of course, training is not the most creative, but it's a forefront, I think. Soon, you will be in these virtual environments, supernatural human beings, and you can just talk to them.
And it's not just the spatial face part, but I was at a film festival. I led a discussion with voice actors. And now
it's
you
happening
can
now.
train your own voice and it can say anything. And
Sorry, guys, I just wanted to... And also going still back to the impact that this could have for media, because then if I am sitting on my couch, I could have the digital representation and share a movie or a sport event and have that person close to me, right? So it doesn't have to be necessarily like a hard skill or technical. That is also like the level of connecting.
or you could be the main actor in any movie you want to see, right? Because
switching.
Yeah, but that would require millions and millions of headsets being sold, and that will take some time. But already now, this is possible. And
for production, virtual production, audiovisual production, this is taking over as we speak.
It's already making an impact. Yeah.
But what did you bring?
Yeah.
We have 3 videos. The first, 4 actually. The first is Goliath.
Oh, yes.
Can you tell the difference between what is and isn't real?
And the moment you start talking about it, they will load it.
Okay, so this is a project that won in Venice the prize for best immersive work in 2022.
Where does that leave you?
I think, and it's about someone. And so you live in this experience, a schizophrenic episode, and in it, but it's an art piece. So it's an art piece as well as an informative piece.
Everything you see.
And it's a great experience to have, but apart from being exhibited at film festivals, this also played a role in the NHS. They use it to train nurses and also caregivers of people that surround people with schizophrenia.
So VR is the empathy machine, just understanding better.
Better what it's like, reliving more what it's like to have an episode like that.
Things like this are also being used in the Netherlands, because I know my husband works in jeugdzorg, and they have this VR experience for what it's like as a child to have your parents fighting all the time after a divorce. So it's harrowing scenes.
What I liked about this is that it's, as well as an art piece of art, as an informative piece. So the sword cuts at both ends.
Yeah. Now we also there's also a Dutch company called SenseGlove. You brought an example there as well, which has an interesting way of bridging the digital and the physical worlds. Maybe you can explain, or we can run the video. SenseGlove, this is number 2. Yes, there.
So SenseGlove, this is a Dutch company. They're in Delft. This is their, I think, 3rd version of their glove. So within this glove, you can really touch and pick up stuff, items. It gives force feedback, so you can just pick up this bottle and it feels like holding a bottle. But if you pick up a cake, it feels like holding a cake. It's an amazing Dutch company. They're doing really well. I think they're already selling all over the world. And it's basically really touching stuff, feeling stuff in a virtual environment, which could be used for gameplay, but also obviously for training and.
It's being used in the military, amongst others, or they have a few pilots going on there to how to handle heavy weapons.
It's
mitrailleurs.
It's being used in many industries. They don't select or have chosen one particular industry, but it's multi-use Dutch company, amazing work. Yeah,
and I think it also shows that we think about spatial computing or VR or metaverse, whatever. You think about digital worlds, but development going on the same time is these haptic developments where you can actually feel things. That is more than just digital. You can feel it because there's actuators in those gloves, and on the other side, there's lots of sensors now rolled out, right? I mean, and what is happening with these VR glasses. Seriously, I saw this. HP was the first, I think, but it's not just that they track your eye, because they need to track your eye so that you see the right thing. They can also track your skin resistance to find out if you're nervous. I mean, you give away so much information on your individual self.
Yeah. And the iris scanning, which goes a lot further than just tracking
where you're watching. Yeah.
What you're watching.
So we're giving away information on our own emotions and our own ideas while we are using these.
Yeah, that's why the whole data privacy topic is very important when it comes to.
There must be a European version of this, because inner space. That's the third one. You see, you get highlights.
Suspense building up.
Yes. What happened with inner space?
So Inner Space is a project from Alex McDowell, and he was with Steven Spielberg. He was behind Steven Spielberg when they created Minority Report. So he built this world where the film Minority Report is based on. His way of working is called world building. So you develop stories or you develop a whole future world. And based on that, you develop storylines. The project I wanted to bring is another project he's doing, Inner Space, where they have made in the past 5 years, a virtual environment of microbiology cell network. So for researchers, and people in schools, you would be able to sort of dive into
travel to the body,
to the cell level, and with also not only with the idea of being able to teach better about these topics, but also hopefully to be able to do new findings. Obviously, that still has to be proven. And the good news is that Alex McDowell is coming to Rotterdam at Immersive Tech Week.
Because this world-building thing is very close to the media. I mean, I think right now in Amsterdam North, you can go to the set of Friends. I mean, people love being in a space that is their favorite media property. So there is something coming where, you have adjourning spatial sets where you can roam around.
Yeah, and also, if you look at a lot of these virtual spaces, they're very boring. Very flat, very clean, very... Like last year when Meta showed those first worlds, it's very clinical. Yeah. So you need creative people that can think of worlds that you cannot build, but where you still want to be.
Yeah.
Where you desire to be, which do not have to react to the laws of physics.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is also a risk in doing it. I agree.
But then still, how do you make someone feel comfortable?
Yes, exactly. I think that also, especially Silvia might have seen in her study, like familiarity is also a very tricky thing to balance, and finding the right tuning in between imaginative and yet something that feels comfortable, right? That is certainly something, and that's why I think that we need more creatives. That is just the point, right? A lot of this is created by technical artists or developers, so that's why we need certainly more creative in this industry. So I totally agree with you.
There's another world that's also interesting. It's the world of the past, so our present world, but then the way it was. That's also what people are
Yes. Well, in that there's this beautiful project called Time Machine.
Yeah.
Time Machine, big European project. Julia Noordegraaf from University of Amsterdam is part of that. So if you search for Time Machine projects, also interesting.
It's recreating, I think, 17th century, 18th century.
Yeah.
The past. How it was.
Not all VR, by the way.
We have one more video that you brought, the spatial computing video. You want to run that, and then we'll open it up for some questions from the audience. It's the last one, spatial computing. There's not this. Oh, is it this one? No. It's not this one. No. Could you stop this one?
This is in an ambulance.
It looks
it's called Benjamin de Wit D. So it's, give them all. Let's see if it comes. Oh, let's open it up for some questions, and then we can run it at the end of this block of this afternoon. Who wants to ask a question? Yes, over there. Wait. I've got the famous throw microphone. Oops. Dank je. Yes, let's see.
Is it on? Yeah?
Yes.
I've got a question from a research perspective. Is there also already neuroscientific research done on the impact on VR, and especially on the dopamine and endorphins? Because I can imagine a whole business opportunity for gambling industries or gaming where getting hooked is first priority.
Benjamin and Silvia, go ahead.
Yeah. There is a couple of companies in the US are working on this. I have to come up later with the names. And Skip Rizzo is a researcher and a professor, psychologist from the States that is working on this. And there's also some professor in the Netherlands that's working on this. So yes, there is.
There's actually quite an extensive group of people doing research on VR, because it's the VR story has started a long time ago. It's not a new technology. It's been there for a while. So what is the research you read about this? You know,
No, I know that there are also researchers about the life beyond us. So there is also this critical studies how we react when we see in VR the dead people, and we embody them. So there is a lot of psychological study how we react with this in virtual reality, because the plus value of immersive experience is that we really feel to be there inside. So we can really investigate.
And there is, I mean, in Germany, there's quite a few applications in VR that in the health field, and to get money to do one of those, the insurance company has to say yes. And for the insurance company to say yes, you can go ahead, you need to have it validated officially by research that there is an effect. Otherwise, they will not fund that. So there's research going on in that field as well. You know, it's like, does this really work or not? Yeah. And so far, I think the answer is, in quite a few cases, yes, not always. Right. I mean, other questions from the audience? Yeah, there's one over here. Could you pay attention, Daly, and could you throw the one over there? Yes. From one head to the other head. Yes.
It's a good throw.
Well, hi. My name is Matthijs. I have a question on how do you think accessibility will be addressed? Because I can imagine for disabled people who can't move their arms or legs, this is getting another hurdle in the experience. However, I think it could be potentially a really extended form of their life, they being able in the virtual space.
Okay, Gabriele, you probably know.
Yeah, I think actually that so certain experiences, so headsets like these start to have stuff like eye tracking, right? So where you could start interacting in different way with the real worlds. Another thing,
I mean, was the Apple one with your eyes? That's a new way of
yes.
Going
So
back,
this
right?
one already has eye tracking, and the Apple will have eye tracking.
Yeah.
So hardware will enable to have a new form of interaction that right now is not really accessible. And then, I mean, there are other options. For example, like of course, voice. You can imagine to act on that. So this is not in a sense groundbreaking. But yeah, I mean, in that sense, there is a hurdle that will need to be overcome. Right, let's not fool ourselves. I mean, if you want to play a game, there are, for example, Sony has done some great work in creating some new controller with a different mapping, indeed to facilitate people that maybe have less digits or stuff like that. So I think that it's not something that we can just dismiss, and it will need. And the fact is also, like, we need to be very mindful about what is that we want to enable. Right, because there are some application and tools that inevitably rely more on buttons, controllers, right, and that are harder to map. The moment that you just say, hey, you can just use one hand, that is just already a great advancement, right? Because maybe someone that doesn't have an arm in that sense. So I don't think we can just say, oh, how do we make this accessible as a whole? Let's look at, okay, what is that has to be accessible? Can even this technology make accessible something that it wasn't before, right? Maybe combining, for example, eye tracking. But
there are a lot of edge cases, and there are a lot of new technologies with the sensors and the movement tracking and the face tracking that would enable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't think we should just group everything. But you also wanted to add.
Yeah. Well, one to add to this is that what you see with the Apple headset. No one has seen it, but what you saw in the video is that you were not using controllers. And you were using micro movements with your fingers to navigate, which probably is also a lot easier if you maybe for some reason cannot hold a controller. I also can't hold controllers, by the way. So that's one thing. And another thing is that the funny thing is that in a lot of rehabilitation centers, VR is being used to help and train with people with disabilities.
And especially to train them and make the world of training less boring, right? I mean, put a set on and you cycle through your hometown is more fun than sitting in this gym and having to cycle for an hour. So.
And maybe just one thing you mentioned was about just the hands. And there are also different ways of interacting with hands, right? So there is the pinching, the movement, but there is one thing also that Meta was showing that is going to be released in their toolkit is micro gestures.
Yeah.
So what that means is that it's not just the pinching; it's sometimes like a movie on top of your index finger, for example, right? So these micro interactions, and then again, you might always wonder, if I don't have hands, how do I do them? These are totally fair questions, but it shows like it might be suitable for some and some not for others.
All right, you can do one last question for this set of speakers. Who wants to? Yeah, there's one here in front. Okay, so the microphone comes back. Yes, thanks.
Are we going to call spatial computing augmented reality at some point? Or are we taking on the buzzwords of Meta and Apple?
What is the last buzzword from Meta? Maybe just to agree.
They use spatial computing, but
no, Apple uses spatial computing.
Ah,
yeah.
Okay.
Everybody's. Do we really need? I mean, sorry guys. Do we really need to hang on a buzzword? Maybe we don't.
I don't think so.
Maybe we shouldn't.
Prefer to call it augmented reality.
I'm in events. I need buzzwords. This year it's spatial computing. No, you need new concepts to understand what's going on. And in fact, I do think the fact that digital information can be connected to certain spots in space instead of to your screen is new. And we'll talk in the next part as well. This is not just sound. This is not just vision. This is also sound. Yeah. So I think the spatial concept is truly interesting, and this goes far beyond VR and AR. But if you say, are these all buzzwords? Yes.
Well, that was what the video of Versus was about.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, just look it up. It's called Versus. It's a new company.
Yeah, I'm just checking.
AI company.
With production, hebben we de video gevonden? De video Benjamin de Wit Day? No?
Well, you can just look it up. But it's about spatial computing and how you can give assets anywhere in the world a certain thing. So then you would maybe walk around as a blind person. Maybe you get prompts because your device knows exactly where you are all the time and knows where all the other cars and people are. So maybe this could give you real freedom.
Yeah. The spatial part is important.
The spatial part, yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.